Calling this meeting to order of the Education Committee, and I would ask Ms. Jordan if she would offer the invocation.
Our Heavenly Father, please give us guidance through our meeting today. Be with our folks who are overseas protecting our freedoms. Be with our country, the survivors and families of this during our 6th anniversary of our 9/11 terrorist attack. Continue to give us our health and continue to give us good direction in our positions as council persons for Cherokee Nation. Amen.
Roll call.
Julia Coates. Here. Don Garvin. Jill Angler.
Here.
Bill John Baker.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Harley Buzzard.
Here.
Brad Cobb.
Here.
Joe Crittenden.
Here.
Jody Fishinghawk. Here. Meredith Fraley. Janelle Fulbright. Here. Chuck Hoskin Jr.
Yes.
Hannah Glory Jordan. Present. Curtis Snell.
Present.
Chris Stoke. David Thornton.
Present.
Carol Callan Watts.
First order of business is the approval of the minutes from the from August 17th meeting.
I don't remember hearing my name called.
Yeah.
You were at the end.
Get me here. Okay.
You were talking. Do I hear a motion for the approval of the minutes from the August 17th?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Now, do we need to do a second one for the July 17th? So we need.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. The first thing is our reports today from Career Services. Diane Kelly, is she here?
She's out.
Is she out?
Yeah. She just run up there.
She forgot we moved her up.
She's here.
Morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Morning.
I just wanted to say that we are very excited about what's going on over at the Job Corps this week. We have 9 members of the Department of Labor there visiting us. They're doing our 5-year contract, end of our 5-year review. So they came in yesterday. They started at 8 o'clock yesterday morning, and they'll be leaving on Friday. And they'll tell us how well we're doing or how well we're not doing, and where we have areas to work on. They do this about every other year, and we've been working real hard for the last several weeks, spending a lot of time over there trying to get ready for it. It's a big thing with the center. If you have 200-something kids, you have to do various things with them, and there's guides that the Department of Labor gives you. We'll be having our graduation in December. Right now, it looks like the Lieutenant Governor, Jerry Askins, will be our keynote speaker. She has graciously said that she would come, but she is asking us to open a couple of dates, so we do not have an actual date confirmed, and as the schedule progresses, then she'll let us know what day, so we'll be letting you know. We'll invite you over for that. We also do our annual Community Relations Luncheon. If you haven't had an opportunity to come over to our Job Corps and eat lunch with us, I would welcome you to come over. Our Culinary Arts Department is on one of the best spreads around. We do a lot of catering for a lot of special civic events in the area. As Linda gets in new students, sometimes the food is easier to fix, and then as she gets the ones that have been there for a year, then we do a little more complicated things. But Linda's always glad to provide any kind of a meal for the council. If you want to come over, let us know. We'll get you a lunch together. We will be traveling to Washington, D.C. October the 16th and 17th. Last Friday, Joe Usry was down from Oklahoma City. Joe Usry graduated from Job Corps in 1979, right after we opened the center at Northeastern in 78. and he is part Oriental and part Cherokee, and he's in his late 40s. He was down last Friday, and they had some TV cameras here from Washington, D.C. that were filming him while he was over at the center. Joe was originally from Adair County. His father ran for chief back during the time that Ross Swimmer was the chief. Some of y'all may remember he was kind of a short man. Well, his father had remarried, and he basically was being raised by some of his aunts, and he enrolled in Job Corps, graduated, and he went on to get his degree, and he oversees the Federal Aeronautics Association, and he's over the building in Oklahoma City. They do the training for all of the FAA, and when we went up to meet him, he stuck out his hand, shook our hand, and he said, "I wouldn't be here today had it not been for Job Corps and what the talking with Job Corps has done for me." And they videoed him, and they're going to induct him into the Hall of Fame in Washington, D.C. the week of October. And so several of us will be up there for that, but we'll also be up there at the Department of Labor meeting. So we're very anxious to see him get this honor. GED, George Roach is our manager, and he will start getting information out about GED classes. All of our GED teachers are working to get those classes underway. They'll start here shortly. They are looking for some other sites where they will have a plentiful group of people coming in for GED services. Doug wanted me to remind you that 50,000 of the, I think it was maybe 800-something thousand that you all had appropriated for vocational for scholarships, 50 of that was moved over to vocational to help us get through September 30th for some of those students that had enrolled and we weren't able to help until October 1. So Juanita Sanders has that, so she's working with some of those students right now. And I think some of you all may have contacted her or contacted my office regarding that. In October or early November, we will have a banquet over at the Job Corps Center to recognize those outstanding partners in vocational schools, as well as our employment partners in our Taro operations. We will be inviting you all over for that. It will be an evening event. We anticipate a good turnout. This will be the first time we've done this. Commerce is also going to be working with us on that because we're going to be recognizing some of those Indian contractors that have really excelled and hired a bunch of our Indian people. Also, in October, we will be at the Employment Training Conference out in Reno. For those of you all that would like to go and learn more about what we do in the Commerce Department, we welcome you to go out there with us. John Overacker and Dale Gibson are in Oklahoma City at the Rural Economic Development Conference doing a presentation on Taro. We were invited. This is the first time they've ever asked us to come and participate because they'd heard a lot about Taro and what we were doing here at the Cherokee Nation, and it was kind of a feather in our hat to have somebody go up and make that presentation. We also will have staff and EEOC training. One of the things that you may not know, those of you that are new on the council, we get a grant from EEOC out of Washington, D.C., and that is to assist in helping to file charges on discrimination for anybody who's been employed who may have been let go. We can actually serve as a mediator and work with them filling out their EEOC. That's part of the Taro responsibilities, and that's one of the bases in which we were acknowledged back during the beginning of Taro. So the staff will be going through 32 hours of training that they haven't had in quite some time, and they'll be doing this probably in, I think, October. We'll be doing it in Tucson, and any of y'all are welcome to come and sit in if you'd like. And some of you all had called about roads and rehab monitoring. John Overacker and his staff are working on that, and if y'all have any questions, you can get a hold of us regarding that. Are there any questions? Ms. Watts?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll probably ask this in rules since employment's been moved to rules for the Taro stuff, but I want to give you a heads up.
I thought it had been moved to executive and finance.
It is executive and finance.
That's not what I heard when we made that motion last night. So I thought
No, I corrected it
I corrected it.
to you.
Okay, well, either way, the executive finance is that if we're accepting those EEOC monies, I'm still unclear why we don't do some of the personnel issues at the casino then for Indian preference.
The reason that we don't is because when we entered into the Tarot, this was when it was Bingo Outpost, one of the things that we did is we said that we would not do anything internally, but this was more for externally for anybody who felt like they were discriminated, because a lot of places they don't have personnel offices. They don't have anybody that works in that capacity.
Right.
And most all of our operations, there is individuals that work in that capacity. So we don't get involved. We can make referrals over and let them know, but we didn't get involved in it.
What oversight, I mean, they only have the courts as a remedy then, outside of CNE or CNB or CNI?
Yeah, they can go through the process just like any employee over here at Cherokee Nation. They can go through the same process, and they can go to the administrative review board.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Ms. Fraley?
Diane, I realize this is an aside, but do you mind briefing them on the tour schedule that you are proposing but don't have firmed yet?
Okay, be glad to, Madam Chair. We are planning a tour of the Cherokee Nation, and for those of you who are not aware, we have entities in most every county, and we're going to try to tour where most of those areas are. We're going to start out up at Catoosa on Tuesday evening on the 18th. That's tentative. We'll get it confirmed by Friday. Start out up there and allow the enterprises to do their thing with you that evening, and probably have dinner, and then start out early on Wednesday morning touring the northern counties, and then on Thursday we'll tour the southern counties. And there are some things that we really want to point out of interest to you on areas where there is monies that's being generated, where we have a lot of resources, where we have some projects that are being planned, some things that haven't been developed, and we want you to see those things. We'll take you down to Salisaw and show you the land that we got from the court. We'll show you where the clinics are, and you will tour in some of those locations. We will provide a brunch for you in some of the locations, lunch. All you'll need to do is just get on the bus, and we'll have everything planned. I know that a lot of the staff are anxiously awaiting you all coming through and touring. Some of you all toured with us 4 years ago, and I think Mr. Johnson eloquently put this not too long ago before he got off the council. He said, had I not gone on the tour and seen really where the Cherokee Nation was, he said, I would have been up there in Dewey thinking it was just here in Tahlequah. And he said, that is one thing that I will always remember, is the places that we went that first 2 or 3 weeks that I was on the council. And so I appreciated him saying that. And I hope that you all will take the time. And you're welcome to bring your spouse if you'd like.
Okay, Mr. Bowser?
Diane, I have a question for you. I guess it could wait till executive finance, but it's about our roads construction. And I know you mentioned this a while ago that on the Daytown Dry Creek Road, I got a report that there were a lot of non-Indians working on that project. And I understand Terrell did go by and check it, but I wish there's a way that we could monitor that more closer, and it may be because you don't have enough staff members to monitor. Is that some of the problem?
Well, it is and it isn't. One of the things that I was told was that there is force account crews on some of those construction sites, and in some of those force account crews you do have other races on those force account, and whenever they went in and made those bids, those people were part of the bid process, and it was brought out who those force account people were. And John told me that they had gone back out. They do not have the staff to go out there every day like they do with some of the construction sites, but they are making provisions to do that. In fact, we were in the process of moving one of the employment training counselors over, but he declined the position, so I've got to look at somebody else now.
Okay. I just, those are rather large contracts, and I had some people call me that they had a lot of non-natives working on the project up there, so I did call in. I understand they did go by and check, but if there's a problem, I'd like to see, I don't know if you charge the roads department a fee, but, if there needs to be a fee assessed to them, then I think we need to assess the fee to them.
Okay?
Thank you.
I will follow up with that.
Ms. Burton? I didn't catch, was that 18th through 20th of September or 18th through 20th of October?
It's the 18th, 19th, and 20th of September.
Next week.
which is next week. And like I said, we'll get all this confirmed, and we may have to drop down to the next week if we can't get everything confirmed. But we're looking at a Tuesday, Wednesday, and a Thursday, so it won't interfere with football games on Friday night, nor will it interfere with Monday's starting of the week.
And it would start on Tuesday evening.
Yes, it start on Tuesday evening. And we're going to start north and come south.
So we drive to Catoosa and then meet you somewhere on Wednesday.
We'll have a schedule. We're going to see if we could get it where you could stay up there for some of you all that are traveling in. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Oh, Mr. Baker.
The following week would not work on Thursday because of our rules of executive finance committee
Thank you.
on Thursday the 27th.
Okay. What time do those meetings start?
At 1.
At 1. Okay. Thank you very much.
Just the board meeting on Tuesday the 25th.
Thank you.
Fall festival at Easter Band the next week.
Okay. Anything else?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Next is the Executive Director's report. Dr. Morton.
Thank you and good morning. Anticipating that there may be a change in format on committee meetings, we put together an unedited brief report this morning. In the future, would you prefer a written report in advance of the meeting? Very good. So we will follow a format, not necessarily the one that I have in the red folder this morning. And again, that is an unedited, very brief outline of some of the programs in education. The first one is in response to Councilmember Cobb that brought up the dropout situation at our last meeting, and this is a brief summary of the percentage of losses that we have in the scholarship program. Seems rather high, but in higher education it is not really out of line because of the extreme dropout rate in higher education.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Fulbright was first. I would prefer to let Dr. Morton finish his report before we start doing questions.
And again, this is bare bones, and it does not provide the provision for tracking Johnny Doe and Susie Smith. That is a process that we will be putting in place this fiscal year. There has not in the past been provision for tracking individual students. We will track individual students and we'll be able to report on individual students. By your area, the area which you serve, and also as a total. Okay, as far as the Education Services report, just run through that very briefly, the printed report. ACES and Public School Outreach. Of course, ACES is our newest program. It is growing and succeeding beyond our initial dreams. It's a very positive program. You will notice that one student, Molly Steen from Grove, has received an ACES scholarship for $2,500 per academic year for up to 8 semesters. She was the winner of our first annual ACES Science Fair held this last spring. We have 19 schools organized at present with ACES chapters. Curriculum and instruction, we are moving forward there, keeping pace with the immersion program in the preparation of materials for those classes, both print material and what we old-timers would call audio-visual materials. Now we would say technological curricula. In the early childhood unit, Head Start, enrollment stats, which of course you have been provided before. Program highlights. Audit was conducted with only minor recommendations. Parent orientations are completed. 23 staff members had perfect attendance in August. This is one matter that we're working on in all of our education programs. It's encouraging attendance by staff. Moving on to the next area, and I have mine out of place already. Into immersion. I do not have a full report on immersion, except that classes are in session. That program is again working beyond our expectations. It's going to create an opportunity for us to move to public schools, and that will cause us to take a slightly different direction, I'm sure, with the program. But at least we will have a laboratory program here on campus that will be the main teaching unit for spreading the program to other schools. JOM co-partner program, you have a full report on that program as printed. Moving on then to Sequoia High School. Well, let's drop back to Learn and Serve. Learn and Serve has 7 current sub-grantees. That program is working well. The NSU Language Scholars Program is picking up. That's the program where we're preparing teachers at NSU for immersion school assignment. Sequoia High School in good shape. Good shape from an academic standpoint, in a good shape from athletic standpoint. Football team is undefeated. Cultural Resource Center, of course, you'll get a full report on that from Gloria in the next section of the report. And just for your information, the rest of the material in your folder are various scholarship opportunities that are available in addition to those which are provided under Pell Grant and the Cherokee Nation program. Several of you have had questions from your constituents about higher ed programs. I think we've been able to clear up most of the misunderstandings or misapplication of the application process. I don't believe that we have any pending at present, and I appreciate what you are doing in that instance, because in every instance you provided information that allowed us to go directly to the problem and work it out. In dealing with as many students as we deal with, and let's face it, for many of these students, this is the first real application that they've been required to complete. And it's brand new to them. It is a little complicated. I think we need to streamline it slightly. But they do remarkably well. Again, as I mentioned here before, as long as mom and dad and grandpa and grandma do not get involved, it goes rather smoothly. When they get involved, then it causes problems for you and it causes problems for us. But fortunately, I think we have those all out of the way. So for next month, we will have a more informative report for each department, with more data for each department submitted to you in advance of your meeting, so that I can respond or other persons can respond to specific questions or concerns that you may have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
If those can be ready 10 days in advance of this committee meeting, then they, like Gail says, they can go into the
Very good. We will do that.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Ms. Fulbright, you had a question earlier?
Yes, a couple of things. I would like to see a breakdown on the dropout rate here between the Pell students and the non-Pell students. What is the
Very good.
difference in their dropout rates?
We will include that in our next report.
And sir, I beg to differ with you about keeping the grandparents and the parents out of the process. I noticed in the last report there were 600 and something students who turned in incomplete applications. They were the 600 and something that did not have a parent or a grandparent to help them, because these forms are quite complicated. I'll stop that.
Of course, one of our responsibilities is to promote responsibility. And some of those students are 34-year-old graduate students that Mama and Daddy and Grandpa and Grandma are assisting. So, and I can, but I certainly can appreciate your concern, because I do have a concern. I have a 22-year-old student whom I have to deal with quite frequently, who has been in school for 3 years majoring in electives, and I have to provide him some assistance in filling out applications for him. So your point is well taken.
Ms. Watts?
Thank you. I have multiple questions.
Multiple?
So, yeah. But before too, since it was brought up, this was actually a campaign issue in my district, and I had third parties that look at it, and I agree that our job is to promote responsibility. And I had third party people look at the application who had also done some other stuff, and ours is relatively easy compared to other applications, which means if they aren't able to fill out ours, they're not able to fill out others, and then how are they even able to do their homework? That was the comment that was actually brought back to me. I mean, because I asked, because I was like, well, this is not political, you know, and so I had somebody else look at it and go over it that was a teacher and an adult that hadn't filled it out 7 years, and that was her comments back. But I agree, Ms. Fulbright's comments about Pell versus non-Pell. And maybe if there's an institutional, I mean, I assume that the data entry person you've included in the budget, I mean, we need to do some heavier analysis, because that's a pretty significant increase between the 2 school years to me in dropout rates. Why are we having that increase in dropout rates, and understanding that? Is it institutional? I mean, are they all at NSU, and we need to look at NSU, or maybe they're all at OSU, and why is that happening? Are they all from the same area, from the same school system? You know, all those things, and understanding better why. And then the valedictorian salutatorians, are we linking those folks, and are we also seeing how well our valedictorian salutatorians perform? Do they have high retention rates? Do they have higher graduation rates? And then why do we have such low participation in the UNLV program and some of the others, and what are the participation rates in Mississippi and the Bowling Green State and Rice? And do we have press releases for those to promote them? And are they on the website? Because I don't remember finding them on the website under the education page, so that I can help promote them with my list and stuff.
Okay, we'll look into all of those.
And then,
So it's the UNLV program. One of the reasons that the enrollment is so low in that is that the program is restricted primarily to those persons that are going into the hospitality industry, which would be rather limited.
but I think, you know, is there, on that particular program, are there root causes? Can we help CNE, for example, identify why the employees aren't? Because my perception of that, which is a CNE question, I'll also beg at the board level, but I need help from you guys and then statistics to support it. We have put Cherokees through those programs, but now they're not being able to be promoted within the company. So if CNE is not really committed to this program, and our employees see that, they're not going to put their lives on hold to get another degree, which is not supporting your program. So if our leadership at CNE is not invested in that, in those employees, once they've committed to that, then there's a fundamental there's another problem, right? It's a deeper issue. And I need help from you guys to have those statistics and understanding what's happening there, because that's actually a particular, because that's an exciting program to have, an opportunity.
By responding to that, yes, we will provide that information which we can glean. Secondly, there is an increased movement on the part of colleges and universities to decide they would like to get involved with the Cherokee Nation. For instance, this week alone, I've been contacted by Kansas State Aviation Program. Lord Roberts University called this morning, wanting to set up a meeting. How can we get more involved? Which will provide opportunities, greater opportunities for our students, but it's something that we need to look at very carefully before we jump into it, to make some real market analysis within our own ranks, within our own employees.
So 2 more questions. So on the Directed Studies program, it is complicated, but one of the things with our self-help initiatives, I'm wondering why we can't ask the individual to have the onus for determining a Directed Studies program. For example, let's say there's a single mom or that knows that they need to re-gear their career, or maybe they never went to college. They either didn't go to college or they made a poor choice on their college degree, or just totally changed their mind. So they know that they want job XYZ at the Cherokee Nation. Or maybe it's at CNE. But they have no other opportunity. But it would be like an open bid process for individuals to come to you guys. Maybe there's a way, I don't know, this could be intensive, so it may not be feasible. But they would write their own Directed Studies program and put it to you guys that this is what I want to do, and I'll be there in 3 or 4 years.
And tie it to an existing job.
And tie it to an existing job. If you know there's shortages, nursing, that's real easy, right? Or some of those kind of things. But maybe there's some that we're missing because our constituents are pretty smart people. Maybe they could innovate and do something that we don't even see an opportunity for. And that, since we haven't used any of that Directed Studies program, maybe that's an opportunity to open it up, and there would be innovation from our own communities. And that's true self-determination to me. And then, so that's that. And then on the language program at NSU, I've kind of expressed this to you in private. I'm still very concerned. There has to be a way that we pay for these folks to stop their lives and become our official degree language programs. I don't think we're funding this the best that we can. I would like that opportunity, and I don't know what that looks like. And I'm going to, ask Chad again, without getting you in trouble. But
I'm in full agreement with you, and I think that there would be provisions within the existing funds to increase the amount of funding to the language scholars, along with a more stringent requirement for post-degree service to the tribe. Let me just explain that a little bit further. In looking through the material on the NSU program, I've discovered that, number one, there is no requirement for those students to provide services to the Cherokee Nation after graduation. There will be for all new ones. I assume that was in place. It is not.
Well, can we not have an opportunity that if we increase their funding that they renew under a new contract?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Because we need those people immediately.
Because we will never, ever catch up with the number of persons that we need from that program. So the answer to your question, would that be appropriate? I think it definitely would be. And I will have a proposal for review by this committee included in the packet for next month's meeting. And I don't think it would involve appropriation of additional funds.
Okay.
I think it would be a realignment of some funds.
I greatly appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Ms. Fulbright, you were next. But I'm going to ask people to keep it brief because we still have 5 additional reports to hear from and several questions.
My concern is back to that 603 who had the incomplete applications. As a teacher at the college at Carl Albert, I volunteered to help a lot of students. As some of them filled out their forms for the Katuwas, and the Cherokee's form was 10 times more complicated. The Katuwa form was much more simple, but that's neither here nor there. I want to know, is there a way that we could have an outreach program to these high school counselors in these 14 county areas, because they aren't helping these students get prepared on how to fill out these forms for Cherokee Nation scholarships.
Yeah,
It's just like they're wandering around in the wilderness on their own, and maybe they're in your class, well, Mrs. Fulbright, can you help me? And they had no idea what they were doing, and they found out not through their high school, but just through a hodgepodge of services. Is there a way that we can reach out to these high school counselors? That's my point.
We have two plans. One will be to organize workshops at area VOTEC schools. That way the teachers will not have to travel a great distance, and will be much more effective, I think, than bringing all of them into the complex. And what we're finding is that in many instances, it is a person other than the counselor who handles the scholarship information. So we're asking schools to identify the scholarship contact person in each of our high school areas, so that we will have that type of contact. Plus, we will be, prior to the deadline for applications for next school year, we will make on-site visits from higher ed department to every high school. Because that is something that is definitely needed.
Okay. Dr. Cobb, you were next, I think.
Question. The Oklahoma State Cherokee certification test first one was scheduled for September the 8th. Can you tell me a little bit about that? And I noticed we didn't have any registrants for it.
Yes, Dr. Slide.
For the September teacher testing, there was no registrants. You have to understand that the Cherokee Education has raised this just now in its 3rd year, and we don't have anyone who's graduated. Right, but we needed to have a test for those when they do graduate, so they be certified to teach in Oklahoma schools.
Okay. Second question: would you consider this? And I don't know what verbiage to use, but would you consider this a pretty accurate compiled list of scholarships available not from tribal, from the Cherokee Nation? These two
only those that would be indirectly associated with the Cherokee Nation. It is not nearly complete enough.
My point to that is, and I think that I've heard some echoing of this, is that I think a lot of people, I know at least in my district, just don't even know these things are available. And quite honestly, some of the I'd never even heard that these were available. And I would like to have a really complete list that when a constituent came to me and said, you know, what's available, what can I apply for, I can say, these are what's available.
And of course, many of those are available through the Cherokee Nation Education Corporation scholarships, which is an emerging program under Dr. Shelley Butler Allen. And of course, she could address that briefly this morning in her report.
Well, the third thing real quick is just your assessment quickly of, I'm noticing, like I'm looking at, this is maybe a bad example, but I'm looking at Rice University. Any Native American student can attend Rice with Oklahoma tuition rates as long as they're Pell eligible. That's a herd of cash, as they say up in my neck of the woods. And then I'm looking at Bowling Green State University offers graduate students in any field to attend their university with a tuition and fee waiver. Do you find many applicants for these scholarships? And if so, why? If not, why?
No, because there is such a tendency to want to stay near home.
Okay.
It is difficult to get a student to go to Penn State, for instance, which has historically had Native American support programs forever, really. But it is extremely difficult to get students to go. Thank you.
Mr. Soap, you're next.
You'll write that back to the chair.
Okay. Ms. Jordan?
I just have one request. By the next meeting, will you provide us the written rules regarding the continuation of graduate scholarships after their initial semester? What the requirements are for their grade, with your grade point.
Number of classes.
And I would like for you to consider looking at, I have a desire to see the professional scholarships, graduate people separated from the non-professional
We can do that.
scholarships, because what I'm seeing is that there is the level of achievement and grade point is different for say a MBA as compared to maybe a doctorate in medicine or a doctorate in law, and I feel like that we're possibly letting some of these young people fall through a crack, because my understanding is that there is still a grade point with the law students and the medical students, and I would like to see that where if they're still in good standing with the school, if they fall below that 3 point, we continue to give them aid from our organization. Because we certainly need more Cherokees in professional fields. And I think they're being held to a standard that's really not appropriate. I know, having been in an MBA program and having also been in a law program, that there is a world of difference in how we are graded. And what I'm getting at is what I got at last month, is by this next round of scholarships, I hope that we can achieve that those two types of schooling are different, and we have a different standard for them.
We'll work toward that and present a proposal.
Okay.
There's another area too that I will be including, and that is on the other end of the scale for the students who may be hesitant to enter college for the first time. I'd like for us to consider on a long-range basis provision for concurrent enrollment of high school students, where we would pay the actual tuition and books for concurrent enrollment. Because with distance learning now, concurrent enrollment is available at all of our schools. So if we can get a student with 6 hours, 9 hours, and they say, hey, this isn't too bad, I can do this. Because the confidence level among some of our students is so low that they opt not to go to college. When if we could get them started with a few hours and they say, hey, I can do this, then they would be more apt to fill out the application for that initial college and proceed without difficulty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Verna Thompson and Head Start, and I'm going to ask people, we've got about 2 minutes per report. We can sort of state the high points and
Mine will be the briefest of brief, because Dr. Morton covered most of my report. All I want to add is that tomorrow is our second annual Male and Fatherhood Involvement Olympics. So everybody's welcome to come. All of our dads coming. Last year we had a good showing, and we actually have different events for the children. If you can imagine, toddlers bowling and riding trikes in a little path. It's really fun, so I invite you all to come up. It starts at 10.
Thank you. Next is Dr. Shelley Butler Allen.
That was a good one. Yeah, my name is Shelley Butler Allen, and I manage the JOM co-partner program here at Cherokee Nation. I think you all have the data, the statistics from Dr. Morton's passing out of our monthly report. So I was going to go over some of that with you, but I'm not going to. Couple of the highlights is currently we are now reviewing the 07-08 school JOM applications for approval, and our big event was last Thursday. My goodness, it's what we call our Cultural Resource Fair. We do provide sub-grants to the schools that apply through an application process. The allocation monies are based on a per-student count, enrollment count for them, JOM student count. They're given $55 per student. Our allocations for our sub-grants, which total 74 schools here in the 14-county area, is approximately $1.1 million. That $1.1 million is never, ever spent down by the schools. I have been requesting through our fall trainings, our administrator trainings, that we're giving you this money to provide supplemental educational activities and resources for our Indian students. Consistently, we've had to hand back about $200,000 in our sub-grant line item. That's not good. That's not good for the schools, number one, because ultimately the students suffer. And that's not good for us as an administrative program, handing back that money that the schools don't spend. We cannot force them to spend it, but we encourage them to, for the benefit of our students. So with that, last year we started our Cultural Resource Fair, where we invited vendors, cottage industry people, as well as companies, book companies, to come in and sell their wares and invite the schools to come in. We give them a voucher. This year it was $2,000 to spend for about 30 vendors that were asked to come in and participate with us to sell their culturally appropriate books, supplies, and those people that were interested in doing presentations to the schools, the JOM students within the schools, we invited them to come and to present what they were, what their content area was, whether it be storytelling or basket making or pottery making. So it was very successful this year. We spent down $141,000. So that's really good. It's getting real close to that line item is being spent down for this program year. It was truly a win-win situation for our schools, our students, as well as the vendors and those people that are out in our communities that are cottage industry people. So that was very good, very successful. We're very happy, but I told them I'm going to go like this when we have our administrators, our fall training next week. I'm going to say, didn't spend down once again this year, but I'm not going to do it again. We're encouraging them not to spend down, I think. We're trying several strategies to afford the opportunity for the schools to spend and purchase their monies appropriately. So with that, I'll close. It was very successful. I'm glad to be here, and I hope to, I don't know a whole lot of faces, so I feel a little nervous up here, but I'll get to meet you and feel a lot more comfortable. Are there any questions? JOM.
Mr. Summer.
Yes, I have a question. Received a lot of positive feedback from the Cultural Resource Fair, and did I hear you say that you will not be doing that again, or?
Well, what we will be doing, because we want them to be able to spend their money appropriately,
One of the things that we had talked about with Dr. Morton was that we would get a report on the efficiency increase from the online applications, because that's some of the feedback that I've got from the particular school system that I was involved with, was that the application approval process, be it a two-partner system, some of the reason why they don't allocate those monies sooner is because of the time
you got it
of the approval process sometimes, in the past, it's went into, say, November or whatever because of the issues there. My understanding is an online program was going to expedite the approval process, and was just wondering where we're at.
Okay, the online, all of the schools did, well, most of the schools that had the capability, and most of them do, submitted their applications online. We're having some glitches that we still have to work out. We had a pilot, schools participate in a pilot program last year to iron out the glitches. Still, we haven't ironed them all out, and we're actively working with the information systems to be able to do that. So it's not as expedient as we had hoped it would be, and we will get there. This year is going to be a trying year once again for application approval, but we're working on it. And that's something, thank you so much, I will address in fall training next week. So.
Dr. Allen?
Yes.
Does this apply to JOM programs that's not within the school system?
Yes. You mean the
subrecipient grant? Can they get those dollars there?
Yes, they do.
They
do. But we manage the program monies. They write an application, but we have a specific person designated to have oversight of the community-based programs.
Okay.
So one of my staff people really has to work hard in terms of keeping up with the community programs.
Okay.
We have 7 of them. We have 6 community and 1 incorporated.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next we have Sequoia High School. Gina Stanley is not here. The cemetery restoration report on Greenfeather.
Those who don't know. Brian Fuller Mounts from Community Services.
I ask one question. Gina Stanley's not here.
Is not here.
Did we miss her last month too?
Yes.
Could we ask that she be here next month? Because I have several questions to ask her about Sequoia School.
Okay. Thank you.
Normally this is given by Donna Greenfeather or Donna Chukalate, and neither one of them could be here this morning, so I was asked to step in. So I'm not going to give you a whole lot of information. You should have a written copy of the report in your folders there, and if you want to look through it, if you have any questions, call Don or Donna, and they can be sure they can answer them, or if you'll just ask them now, I can take you to them.
Okay, Mr. Cox.
I have one quick thing on the first page, number 14, Tyner Cemetery. The current contact person is Doug Ketcher. On the third page, Tyner's Family Cemetery. The current contact person is myself. I am not on that anymore, and I will tell you that there were actually 2 letters sent. Okay. And the first one, while I was on that committee, I actually signed that letter. A return letter, because the work has been done on those cemeteries. Can you check on where that is, please? Because I've talked to Vicki Brookshoulder about this. And
Can I ask did you address it to Donna Chukalate, or do you recall it was addressed to?
that was like 2 years ago. I have no idea.
Okay. Because sometimes things just float through the system if it's not directed directly to somebody, but I'll check.
Let me know.
Jimmy Walker is asking if either of them
Quick question is, when the project is completed, that means they've spent all their money? Or
They've spent all the money, we've got all the required documentation back in.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Dr. Slack, we have the...
Madam Chair, if there is a specific question about Sequoia, Gina Stanley's attending a conference in Albuquerque. You were attending hers. So I'd be happy to try it.
My specific questions is I want to know how many working computers we have in the dorms for the 151 students that are living in the dorms. Now that's working computers. I want to know how many are being provided in the dorms for those students to use for their educational proceedings.
Don't know, but I'll find out.
And my other question is,
Ms. Jordan, may I interject? Can you ask this question of Dr. Morton afterwards? We still need to hear from Dr. Sly. And yeah, thank you very much. Okay.
It's good to see you this morning, and I'm Gloria Sly, Director of the Cultural Resource Center. And I just said good morning in Cherokee to everyone, so I'm going to be very quick. With the community language class sites, you have a listing of the 10 sites that Brian has set up. We're getting the contracts for the community instructors together, and those classes will begin normally they begin the first week of October, the first 4 weeks, and so they're beginning on, some of them October 1. Lowell Shawnees, we continue to meet with them and help them. You know, the Shawnees 10 years ago had 12 speakers over the age of 60. Today they have 4 speakers over the age of 70. So we continue to have classes to try to teach them their language and help them revitalize it. There was a question earlier about the Oklahoma State Cherokee certification test. As I was saying, there were no registrants, but we're poised. We set up a meeting and conference room every time there's a test day to score the test. So Cherokee Nation is involved with that. We've been involved from the beginning as far as developing the test. We work with them on scoring the answers and everything like that. So we'll be working with them later. I think it's in October. We'll go up there and help them set the scoring schedule for the test. And then Cherokee Nation staff will be scoring it if anyone ever takes it. So, but it'll be I'm thinking it'll be in the spring or next fall before we have our first one, unless there's a Cherokee-speaking teacher out there who wants to sign up for it and thinks they might be able to pass it. So if you have a Cherokee speaker who's already certified, they can enroll for this test. So, and I don't know if the Cherokee speaker who's already gotten education courses behind him could pass it or not, because you have to be able to read and write in Cherokee and everything. So I'm anxious to see someone take this. Our online Cherokee classes, this is the schedule, and these are the live classes. You can also attend these classes because they archive them, and those who can't participate in the live ones can watch the ones that have been recorded. You don't get the personal interaction with the teacher, but you can have that. Right now we have 820 people enrolled for the 3 Cherokee classes, Cherokee 1, Cherokee 2, and Cherokee 3, which is down. Normally we have around 1,200. The council appropriates funds for GPR work at cemeteries. This is a list that we have so far. Some of them we've completed, and we've completed really 7, and there are 6 more which we will get a little later. Some of them we're trying to determine what kind of work they want done. And then the chief's marker did ask for different, the council members in the last session had asked for an estimate on a 2-foot square marker, that black granite etched, and that quote was $750 per marker. And so you should have the quotes, I'm not sure how to say this, but there were quotes earlier, and maybe I need to give you the other information on the other quotes, because there was a marker that we talked about that was the same as the veteran size markers, so, and that was a different. So, any other questions? I don't do bids, I do quotes. Remember, I don't purchase, so the 3 bids will be from that. But these were just estimates from Hearts. And the exact cost will be from the purchasing department. But this is what they're estimated, because they work with 2 or 3 other monument companies in the area, and that was the best
we can get at this point.
Thank you. Thank you. Is that it?
Thank you.
Okay. I want to apologize to everyone who that I cut short in making their reports, that I've cut short on questions and things like this. We are combining two committees. I only chaired this education committee 2 times now, and this has happened both times. That there have been a lot of questions. We've had to hurry up at the end and everything, and so for consideration for our rules committee, since we are combining education with language, history, and culture now, and since education is something that obviously everyone on this council has a great deal of interest in and numerous questions about, and rightly so, because education is the thing from which everything else flows. I would like us to really consider in our rules committee to expanding the length of time for the education committee to 1.5 hours to 2 hours instead. And so I just would like to conclude with that suggestion, that recommendation.
Madam Chair,
Quickly.
it's to be done in this committee. If it's going to be done, it's not to be done at rules, was the advice I was given. So we would have to amend the agenda at this time in order to consider lengthening the time of it.
The time of this committee. Mr. Baker.
Madam Chair, I move to amend the agenda for the purpose of extending this meeting time.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved, so passed.
I'd like to make a motion to extend it to 1.5 hours.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Discussion?
No
No discussion. Okay, good.
Was there no discussion?
Are you wanting discussion? Of that?
It wasn't.
I didn't ask. You're right, I didn't ask. No one cares to?
I would just suggest we try the 30 minutes. If we need more time, we can always
We
extend
can amend it, yeah.
longer next time.
Okay. Mr. Garvin?
I just want to make a motion that our next meeting be on Tuesday at 10 o'clock. Here then.
It's already scheduled.
No.
Okay, we're going to discuss meeting times, is that right, in rules? Or,
No,
yeah.
you do it in committee. You
I
discuss
second his
meeting
motion.
time.
Okay.
What? Oh, I apologize. I withdraw that second.
I'm going to ask for some discussion on this because we were actually suggesting perhaps doing it in the afternoon instead, but yes.
I received at least one request from another counselor and I assumed everybody else received the same request, that maybe we could juggle these things around and move education to the afternoon. I personally am available any and every time you want to meet, but that's because I have a very flexible schedule. And I fully realize that we have individuals that are trying to juggle some of their work time around this. And I certainly, that individual is not able to be here with us this morning. I know he was real interested in education. And I don't see what the problem is of us taking one of our afternoon meetings and putting them in the morning and putting this one in the afternoon, if it will help increase our membership here.
Yes. I am confused, I guess, about when this is all, the process is, because it's been around for a couple of months, talking about rescheduling the times for meetings and such, and this doesn't happen in rules, so when does it happen? Does it happen literally meeting by committee, and how do we get some sort of coherent thing out of that if we're literally trying to do this committee by committee? I am inclined to agree with Ms. Jordan that, when we've got a person who has expressed a great deal of interest in being at this particular meeting, that we could accommodate that if it's not a burden to anybody else, and it's to move it to the afternoon instead for 1.5 hours. Mr. Baker?
Madam Chairman, I'd make a motion that we make education the Tuesday of council week starting at 1 o'clock for 1.5 hours.
That's a motion on the floor.
There is a motion to make it.
I'll do my second on that one.
Point of order. Is there not a motion on the floor for the 1.5 hours?
We already approved that.
So now
We're just looking at the time.
Okay.
Madam
Mr.
Chair,
Garvin?
we're just starting at 9 o'clock, and there's nothing to do till 1 o'clock, is that what you're saying?
No, that we would have, what we were hoping is that some other committees could be moved to the morning.
Education, right?
And that other committees could be moved to the morning, to Tuesday morning, that education could be at...
The only one we can do is education, is that what you're telling us?
Right now, my understanding is the only one we can move is education, or that we can schedule. Is that it?
If we come at 9 o'clock for community services, it's going to be a long wait till 1 o'clock.
When is Resources scheduled their next meeting? Is it? Because you did that yesterday, right?
They had a council meeting at 4 o'clock that day.
And that's already set?
Pretty much, and I'm not speaking for Curtis, but it really would work best if we leave that resources meeting there. Because we've had to change it so many times because of some late deadlines on some resolutions.
Can health move to an hour earlier, or that makes it difficult for the people coming from Claremore Hospital, wasn't it, is the reason?
Yes, thank you. I've had this discussion with Jim Cousin, and it may be, they may be able to answer that question better after the next committee meeting.
So community services is set for 9.
And we can move that to 10 or 11. It doesn't bother me anytime.
If we could start community services at 10 instead, and have health at 11.
You have to vote on that in your committee, because
Which is
not
already...
all committee members are members of all committees. So that's why you do it by committee.
Right.
Did you get a second on his motion?
I don't think we did, no.
Maybe second.
The second. Mr. Baker?
I was going to suggest we still meet at 10 and then have the health at 1 o'clock. Then we would have...
We're trying to accommodate the person who is extremely interested in the education committee who cannot come on Tuesday mornings. That's the thing. But, yeah.
You have a second?
Do you have a second? Do you want to make that as a motion?
What? We got motions.
You've got a motion and a second here for this?
That 1 o'clock
Yeah.
appeared to accommodate that request that we received some time back.
Is there
And by the same token, I think the health department requested that same time.
Right, we're throwing out multiple possibilities here for meetings of time, and this is what is the difficulty. We can't do that.
What's the motion on the floor?
The motion on the floor is for 1 o'clock in the afternoon, is that correct?
Motion at 1 o'clock.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay. Roll call.
Carol Kyle Watts? No. David Thornton?
Yes.
Chris Soap?
No.
Curtis Snell?
No.
Ivor Jordan? Yes. Janelle Fulbright?
Yes.
Meredith Fraley?
Yes.
Jody Fishinghawk?
Yes.
Joe Crittenden?
Yes.
Brad Cobb?
No.
Harley Buzzer?
Yes.
Jack Baker?
No.
Bill John Baker?
Yes.
Bill England?
No.
Ron Garvin?
No.
Judy Pope?
Yes.
Nine yea. Seven nay.
Motion passes. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So the next month, we do